Two. And there we are. We are live in the building. Let me just mute the desktop audio. Welcome to everyone who has joined us. We're live on Twitch right now. I've got Quinny with me as always. Here we are. We're going to do the End Product podcast live and loud. How are you doing, Quinny? You good, mate?
I'm great. I was actually started my day off fantastically. I was listening to the So Far So Rare podcast, and they had an amazing guest on it. Probably the best guest they've had since me.
Oh, I can't disagree with you there, mate. I think, John outdone himself with his guest this week. In case you missed it, go check it out. Your boy Stish up in the mix. Shout out to everyone on Twitch and I believe TikTok. We're actually live for the first time ever. We are recording this podcast live. So massive shout out to everyone in Twitch. I can see Struli, Rascal, Rish. We've got Jeans up there, Dan to 10, Azzy Mac. We've got a bunch of people in the building. Hopefully we've got a few Sorare users in there. If you're not familiar with the podcast and you're new to Twitch or TikTok and you're kind of stumbling upon myself and Quinny right now, the End Product podcast is a weekly podcast we do, goes out on all of the platforms. This is going to be the 30th episode as well, Quinny. 30 episodes deep. And we like to cover everything about football, particularly around what's going on in the Sorare community and the product. Sorare is a fantasy football game. If you're not familiar with it, you can check it out. We'll have some links. We'll fire some links out a little bit later on. But for now, let's. I think we should get stuck into it. Quinny, how have you been, mate? What have you been up to for the last week since we last spoke?
Just knee deep in this World Cup stuff, buddy. You know, like, and I say that's why I really enjoyed listening to that podcast this morning, because you and John were just going into the nitty gritty of the knockout draft and what things we need to think about, and the the point totals that each player now has is much different in the groups than it was in the group stages. You know, so just trying to forecast a little bit and keep myself ahead of that, because the group stages have been terrible for me. I picked Kevin De Bruyne from a star midfielder who was an absolute letdown and a half. And then the rest of the players just never correlated. So I just didn't get any good scores matching up, you know. So like Griezmann did good for 2 games. Van Dijk did okay for 1 game. Lautaro had 1 good game. Emi Martinez had 1 good game, you know, but none of them coalesce. So going into the knockouts, that's in terms of what I've been up to this week. I'm just thinking about how can I make a better set of picks going into the knockouts.
Yeah, I hear you. I had to go back in on mine. I think, like you said, you mentioned that you listened to the podcast I did with John last night, and we were talking a little bit about like the kind of the problems that we might have had up to this point with the redraft and stuff like that. So obviously, I mentioned that I had Gundogan in mind because I was fully expecting Germany to get out of the group, and obviously we wake up the next morning and we're not. Gundogan is not there. He's not going to make it into the next stage of the tournament, which is surprising for most of us, but here we are. It means that I kind of redid my draft, and I'm looking now, if I remember rightly. Let's have a quick look at who I've got in instead. I think I'm gonna actually continue to use Rodrigo de Paul into the next round, but I actually picked up Ziyech because I've been really impressed with Morocco up to this point, and I fancy them to potentially, you know, create a minor upset in the next round, and maybe I'll get some usage out of him in rounds to come. But been really improving game on game Morocco, and I think Ziyech has been good, and I think he'll be useful. So, what's your draft looking like at the minute?
Well, midfield is the main problem for me because Kevin De Bruyne was, of course, such a letdown. Kimmich is out, of course, one of the easy picks to make. De Paul, is a really interesting one, right? Because I was actually looking at the Argentinian midfielders and I was thinking about picking up an Alexis McAllister on the draft. But then it's like, you know, De Paul should play every game. Paredes played a good bit. Enzo, everyone's going mad for. So outside of De Paul, I'm not too sure how the Argentinian midfield is actually going to configure over the next game or even the one after that. So tons of headaches, man, in terms of the draft. And it's mainly in midfield because I think the forwards I've got, I'm happy to roll with. I can get away with Van Dijk, I think, against America. Do I then try and get a defender that will get me into the next round, or a defender that I know will get to the next round a bit better? Because I think America could cause an upset against Holland. It's not off the cards, you know.
Yeah.
So it's kind of those are the main problems and questions I'm kind of finding myself in with the draft. It's mainly midfield in particular because some of the midfielders you know they'll start. Will they have a good game or not? It's hard to say. Whereas guys like De Bruyne and Kimmich, some of those guys just have no thinking in them, you know, or you think you know, that
Yeah.
they're going to be easy picks. But I don't think there is any easy picks left. And that kind of led me, Sish, I'll kind of throw this at you and everyone who is listening and watching. If you are live, let me know about how crazy you think this is, right? But I've actually I'm going to try and go a bit contrarian, I think, with my midfielder pick, and I'm going to go with Daichi Kamada.
Ooh.
Oh, sorry, 2 seconds.
Nice.
Somebody's at my door. 2 seconds.
Someone's at the
Sorry.
door. Yeah, listen to that. This is how it goes sometimes in your life. You know, back in the day on Noel's house party when someone comes to the door, maybe it is Kamada at the door for Quinny right now to pay him a quick visit and thank him for his selection in the Global Cup. We'll take a minute actually from the audience while Quinny's just answering to the postman there. Dan to 10 says he thinks Enzo doesn't really play. To be honest, I'd go Paredes if I had to pick one. And I'm gonna counter that. I actually think that Enzo's done enough in the time that he has spent on the pitch, and I would expect to see a bit more. Quinny's running around in the background. It's all good. I would expect to see a bit more of Enzo into the next couple of games. I actually fancy him to kick on a bit. I think that him and Alvarez have taken their spots, and I would expect both of them to fully kind of integrate themselves back into Argentina's team and probably into the starting lineup. So just to put a point to that music there for Dan to 10, I would say I'm expecting a bit of Enzo action. Here he
Not
is.
expecting that.
Quinny's back. Oh, we were just saying, was that Kamada at the door? You remember the old Noel's house party?
No, it wasn't Kamada at the door. No, no, it was actually my mum.
Oh. Well, she's definitely not in your Global Cup selection, mate. So
No, she's definitely not.
she would have done better than De Bruyne, though. So
She would have
unfortunately,
definitely. My mum would have definitely done better at the World Cup than De Bruyne. There's no two ways about it. My mum could have slotted right into that Belgian midfield or the defence. No problem.
Yeah.
She did.
She would have
been
definitely
faster
scored.
across 10 yards of Vertonghen.
She would have put away at least one of them chances Lukaku had as well, I think. So,
Yeah, I would agree. My mum would have definitely finished that.
so while you were gone, actually, I just kind of put to a point to the chat, and I want to get your view on it. But someone in the chat said that they don't think that Enzo is likely to play. Like I concur. Well, I don't concur actually. I kind of put it to them that I think Enzo and Alvarez have done enough in the time they've spent on the pitch to warrant a start in the next round. What do you reckon?
Oh, I hope not with Alvarez, because then that puts my Lautaro in jeopardy.
Yeah, he's definitely done mine. I've got Lautaro as well, but I just don't fancy him.
I think the Argentina manager fancies him, but more than Alvarez. I think that was a wee bit of give them the minutes. Argentina were kind of through. They weren't all the way through, you know. I don't know. So yeah, that is a real problem. But the reason I landed on Kamada, right? He's 11 points. He's not got a goal yet in the World Cup, and he is like starting every game for Japan. And I love Kamada. Anyone that's watched my content for the last year or two will remember I had that card for donkeys. So it feels like a little bit of it's one of my guys that I'm going to pick, you know. And then like if he does score, like I didn't fucking care if I win. I'll be on the ceiling like fucking Kamada, you know. Like
Yeah.
And that's part of the fun with Sorare. It's just at least if you got one guy right, you can enjoy it while it happens, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Whereas I've not had that with the Global Cup. When Griezmann scored or when any of these good things have happened, the rest of the team's been so shit that it doesn't even matter to me. So I thought maybe Kamada is worth a shot, but he's only a one-round player at best, you know.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? The way Japan have been playing, it's hard. It's anyone's guess, isn't it? I think they could provide us with another shock moving into the next round for all we know. But yeah, I think there's a lot of people in the chat kind of expecting Alvarez to take Martinez's place, and I'm a Martinez holder as well, and I'm not expecting to get much use out of him. So, you know, I've had to go pretty big in the draft to bring in Mbappe just because my forward options have been kind of hampered by, I think, like Argentina's potential rotation. So that's kind of where I went at. I think a lot of people listening might also be familiar with that potential hiccup that I've had to come up against a couple of times already this week, where my selection ended up sort of changing in its price. So the fact that I kind of like got Gundogan in and I was like, sweet, that's locked in, and now Germany come out, it meant that I had to do a bit of rejigging to make sure that I could still make some good selections, because my main problem was my midfield options. So I had to make sure that I had a good one, and I kind of went in with Gundogan. I thought it was a player who's on pens. I expected Germany to get out of the group. They now haven't, so I've had to go back in to just like provide a little bit of a backup option for DePaul. And like I said, I've got Ziyech in, but I still think I'm going to have to go with DePaul in the next game. He picked up a 77 in the
nice.
final group stage game, where he was really disappointing in the first two. So I was struggling for a midfielder. But yeah,
I think midfield is going to be the decider in the knockouts, because I just think the midfield is such a hard place to get plus 60 points, plus 70 points in the next match day as a guarantee. When you go look at the draft, when everyone did the draft in the group stages, everyone goes to Kimmich and De Bruyne and Modric, and in this round, is it Bellingham? Is it Pedri? Is it, who looks good in this round? It's kind of really hard to say.
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? I mean, there's been so many shocks. Have you managed to catch all the games in the last couple? Obviously, the games that have been running sort of side by side, been flicking between the two. I really enjoyed the Mexico game the other night. I don't know if you caught any of that, but I'd say that was probably my favourite game that I caught. And obviously, the activity that was going on in the Poland game on the other side, and that kind of potential for like a literal coin flip between the two clubs to go through. It's pretty exciting. I don't know, like if you have a particular favourite that you've had from this round of games so far.
The rounds have all kind of bled into one for me. I've only started to miss some matches in this round because they're on at the same time, and then if I'm in here, it's no problem because I've got all the screens on the wall. But if I'm in the house, it's like I'm just watching whatever one I fancy. But yeah, I don't think there's been any, like the Germany-Spain stuff last night was the best, I think, But I actually started the night off thinking, these are foregone conclusions. I wasn't even really bothered about them. And then I let the first half kind of maybe start and get up and running. And then after, I can't remember what goals it got my attention, but I was like, oh, Jesus, man, this is going to be on, like this is going to be a firecracker. And I got it turned on. So I think the knockouts is going to be, it's going to be different gravy, I think, in terms of the tempo and the.
You'd definitely expect it, right? We were all expecting like a little bit of an uptick in quality, but I think I've been expecting that game on game. I don't think Germany turned up like I expected them to after their first game. They kind of did yesterday, but they were very close to losing to Costa Rica at like one point. They had to really like pull it out of the bag at the end, and I think of all people, someone who I've kind of berated through the tournament in Kai Havertz. I think we spoke about him on the podcast last week.
Yep.
He managed to turn up with a couple of goals. Again, Musiala I thought was excellent. He was all over. Apparently it was a record. I saw a stat from Opta yesterday that Musiala completed the most dribbles of any teenager ever at the World Cup.
Wow.
Yes, in yesterday's game. He was all over him. His so rare score doesn't really reflect that, but I think. I've got his midfield card, so I think it's slightly different. If you look at his forward card scores versus midfield, he's about 10 points better off. But my midfield Musiala card didn't score particularly well, even given all of the kind of dribbles that he was doing. I think that maybe dribbles is more of a thing for forward cards. Having a look at Musiala and taking a kind of wild punt at that. I'd have to look at the scoring properly, but I've been a little bit surprised actually by some of the scores that players have returned. And I don't know if you see like the classic one of defenders losing the ball through like clearances. Because I remember big games where like teams have had to defend like for their lives in the last sort of 10 minutes of the games, and that a player that looks like an absolute rock at the back, and you have a look at his score and it's like 28, and he's got like a minus 17 all around or something like that, and it's just like, how am I watching the same game? This guy's absolutely bossing it at the back, but with all of them clearances comes a like possession lost or something like that, and it's been very different in like watching the World Cup games and kind of having a rough idea of what I expect their scores to be versus like club football, which I'm sure we're all missing. How excited are you for the return of club football? I know like your Celtic cards are probably gathering dust in your collection at the minute.
I'm super excited, mate. I think I started last week going back to the whiteboard and laying out my teams and my depth and everything. And then I actually messaged Andy Laird at Sorare Data, and I was like, mate, when are you going to start putting lineup builders back on for game weeks? rather than bloody match days. And he's like, oh, never thought about it. So hopefully we see Sorare Data get the fixtures rolled out. Oh, we've got him in. We've got him in.
Oh, we've got a new guest that we're about to bring into the chat. Give me a couple of seconds. I'm going to get my studio mode on. We're going to bring a special guest into the chat. Just give me a second to have a little movement around. Quinny, if you want to keep the chat going for a minute while I bring our special guest into the fore.
So obviously, this is for anyone who's a regular viewer, this is normally a 3-man effort. Tony Watt couldn't make it today. He's been let down by a tradie in his training and whatever. And at the last minute, we have got the super of super subs coming in. As you guys will know, like the Spotify Wrapped went out for all the podcasts and for everyone, and YouTube Music. All these things went out yesterday. And for the End Product podcast, you guys loved the episode that this super sub came in so much. So as soon as Tony couldn't make it, it was the first person I went to. And it looks like he's managed to come in and pop us in. So as soon as Stish can have a wee reveal for us and get him on screen, you'll see who...
We're getting close to the... Oh, we're looking good, right? Is everyone ready for this? Is
everyone the number ready? One super sub.
Do you know what this feels a bit like? You know, like when you used to watch... actually, can I get... Let me get your @ No, actually, we'll update the @ in a minute. Let me just... we'll mute his sort of like name tag on there for a minute. So everyone gets the big reveal. We've got a very special guest. This is a bit like watching the...
He's warming up right now. I can see him. He's getting hydrated. Oh. He's getting the electrolytes in. He's ready to come on the pitch. He is ready.
It's like when you used to watch Royal Rumble as a kid and you were waiting for your favourite wrestler to come. Right, are you ready, people? Here we go. Here comes the reveal. There we go. How's that looking? Oh, look at that.
Hey!
The Ultimate Warrior. I've got to get him unmuted. There we go. He's off mute now. He's in the building.
Fantastic. Guys, thanks a lot for having us.
Yeah, Mark Patrick Rare, good to see you, my man.
Good to see you, boys. How's things?
We're really good. How's your... we've been talking a lot about the kind of the World Cup tournament and wondered how you were getting on in your Global Cup team. Have you had any success?
Mine's is doing good, I think. I mean, like I'm on, I think it's about, in total, about 1,030 something points. I got stung in the last one, the France sting with that L'Equipe releasing the team that had Griezmann and Mbappe in it. I had Griezmann in my team, and obviously that ridiculous decision where they've VAR'd the goal off at the end, kind of sucker punched me. But yeah, I think I fancy my chances going into these last game weeks. I've made some astute changes to my last lineups. I think one of the things is I've fancied Argentina from the beginning.
Yeah,
so I've kind of had that in my brain. Like I fancied them, and don't want to be too disrespectful to Australia, but I think their time's up in this next game.
Yeah. I think so. But I'm the same. I think we spoke about it on the Solar Odyssey podcast when we sort of picked out our World Cup picks, and we both went with Argentina, and I was so certain they were going to have a good tournament, and I went when on my initial kind of draft I went De Paul and Martinez, and the two of them haven't really turned up until I think like De Paul picked up a 77 in the last game, but just before you came on, we were talking a little bit about Argentina in the chat, and I fancy Alvarez to take Martinez's place in the starting lineup for the next.
Definitely.
Definitely.
Yeah, I'm pretty certain of it too. I think he's done the business.
I just don't think I mean, look, I know Quinny, you are loyal Martinez fan club, right? and by the way, I think he's brilliant. And in the qualifiers, he's just been sensational. I mean, Sean and I at Sorare Odyssey, we did a proper deep dive into the Argentinian squad in one of your podcasts, and one of the things that was interesting is Alvarez basically didn't play in the qualifiers, neither did Enzo.
Yeah,
and to be fair to Sean, one of the things he said was that Alvarez and Enzo would finish the tournament starters, and I think that's kind of going to be how it's. You have to start Enzo in the next game, and you have to start Alvarez, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. It's been unfortunate to admit because I did have Martinez and I had massive hopes for him, and yeah, he just kind of let me down those first two games. You know, he put the ball in the net a couple of times in the first game, but he just couldn't find himself in an onside position to do it, unfortunately. But
See your DePaul with
yeah.
DePaul, I think I seen a bunch of stats the other day there where it's like you come away from the obvious stats about like pass completions and there was lots of stats around about him breaking the lines and him pressing, and I think as we get into the business end of this tournament, he's going to be useful because he's generally not coming off the pitch, and
Yeah.
plus that coach just loves him. In that last game where the other team is caved in, and I fancy that's roughly how Australia are going to play. I think DePaul, I think he's a good pick for you.
I hope so. I'm kind of forced to use him because it's either him or Ziyech for me in the next round as things are looking. But I was also saying I've been really impressed with Morocco in this tournament. I've really enjoyed watching them.
Yeah.
Someone in the chat was mentioning that Hakimi is one of the best cards that they've had in the tournament. I don't know if you saw his incredible assist yesterday. Absolute beauty.
I missed that assist, but I've seen a couple of their games, and Hakimi and Ziyech, absolute standouts for sure.
Definitely. Yeah, I've been super impressed with Morocco, and fancy they could create an upset in the next round. They've been a good watch in terms of today's football. Obviously, we're recording this on a Friday. We got some grudge matches today. I think today's is some pretty exciting. I'm really looking forward to Ghana Uruguay. I think that is going to be incredible. I think it's going to be fantastic. I fancy Ghana to win as well. I think that they'll get their revenge. I actually fancy them to win. I don't think Uruguay have been good this tournament personally.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, like you're kind of like the Uruguay team, in a similar way, reminds me a wee bit of how Belgium have been shaping up, where like they're just pushing out the same older guys and hoping for the best. I think Cavani and Suarez are just too old at this point to affect it at this level, and a lot of pressure on the likes of Valverde. I just don't think that they've got enough. I would go with that. I would say Ghana have got that bit of bite, and they've probably got that bit of grudge about. Obviously, the media's all covered it, haven't they?
Yeah. Suarez handball on the goal line, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, definitely, I think that Ghana would be favourites.
Yeah.
I had Ghana as probably my surprise African team of the tournament. I think that's probably been Morocco, but I think Ghana have definitely. If they beat Uruguay and get through, they've definitely done themselves proud. I think the big thing as well, like when you throw in that kind of aging defence they've got, Mark, is the pace that Ghana have. And we've seen that with all the African teams, is they're so dangerous on the front foot. They're just the players have got wide and up front is they're all whips, and I don't know if Uruguay will handle that.
Yeah, it's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is that, like, I mean, on a personal level, I'm hoping that Korea sneak through. So a draw would be nice for me, but I think realistically, Ghana will be too much, and probably they will get through in that spot in that group, along with the Brazilians.
Yep. Brazil have done the job, haven't they? They've kind of come and done so far what we expected them to do, or not in a particularly tough group, but they've kind of done the business. And I feel like I was tweeting in the week, I think Switzerland are like the biggest sort of like they're the blue balls country of the World Cup. It's just like they're so frustrating. They just frustrate the life out of everyone they play. And Brazil was like a perfect example of like Switzerland in finals tournaments. They're not my favourite team to watch. I think I could probably count on one hand the amount of Switzerland games I've watched and enjoyed. And there was that time I think like Shaqiri scored that incredible sort of overhead kick. Was that in the Euros?
Yeah.
A couple of years back, I don't know. I can't remember when it was, but barring that game, I don't ever remember watching Switzerland and enjoying it. So yeah, the Brazil game, they squeezed through in the end, but fancy quite a bit of rotation for them. There's a lot of talk of Alisson being benched for the game, A lot of talk of Anthony starting, Rodrigo starting, potential Dani Alves appearance for you, Quinny. How do you feel about that?
That'd be good, aye. We'll see Dani Alves grace another World Cup and do some bits. That'd be fun. But I think as we, just again going back into what you are talking about there, my mind just keeps going back to this draft, and also we're talking about DePaul there. Midfield for me in this knockout stage is such a hard decision. Like I can't get by it. Sorry, it's just pure dominating my thoughts. I don't know. I think Dani Alves, I'm actually looking at him. I think he's on as a midfielder.
Oh, really?
He is. Yeah, he's on as a 12-point midfielder card.
I mean, it's a bit overpriced. A bit overpriced for a player who might get 5 minutes all tournament, you know?
Yeah, I was going to say, this will be the end of his. I think he'll get this game and that'll be it. Unless there's, because they've got Danilo surely should be back for the next game, you'd imagine, for because I don't think that they'll persist with what's his face, Real Madrid centre back. I don't think they'll play him at right back.
Yeah.
I don't think he'll play it right back again. They'll be hoping that Danilo gets fit. And even if, it shows you where Dani Alves actually fits in, that when Danilo was out, that they put Militao there. So clearly he's just, I heard one of the things was that he was there just to keep the spirits high. That was one rumour going around. But yeah.
Yeah. What do you two reckon about Neymar's potential chances to re-emerge in this World Cup? There's talk of him not being out, but the pictures of this ankle and his foot, I'm just like, how does anyone get over that in like a week? It looked awful to me.
See when I seen it, like there was a bunch of things I was thinking. Well, one is like going back to old school, where they would just give you injections and play through the pain. I remember like particularly like Barry Ferguson at Rangers had like, did he not? I think he had like a whole season where he was just like getting injections and playing through the pain. So that is one thing possibly, because realistically, World Cups every 4 years. You're not going to. This is not going to come up again. Neymar's 31 now. Is he 31?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So come 34, 35 next time. I think that's maybe. So that's one thing. Secondly, is it might just heal itself, like in that period. Again, Stish, I kind of haven't seen that photo. I generally don't think that looks to me to be a month roughly injury out. I've broken my ankle playing football twice, and it was puffed up a bit like that.
Yeah,
I know that that's not a break. That's just like, I think that's
sprain
ligament damage, but
it
looks to be pretty bad. So I would guess, just from having lots of injuries when I played football myself, that's probably about a month.
Yeah.
But the other third thing that I would say is like, like there's so many new procedures and recovery processes for players these days that it wouldn't shock me that he could come back. Did we not have somebody that had a cruciate ligament and then was back? Was it not Haaland? Haaland was out and then he got this really serious, and then he's back playing like in 2 months. You're like, wait a minute here, what happened?
That's true. He did kind of just appear back in the lineup out of nowhere, didn't he? At Dortmund.
Yeah, that's right. So I'd have to say I don't know enough about the medical side of it to comment other than just like personal experience. But I think they will bring him back. If there's a slight chance, he would bring him back, surely.
Yeah. Yeah, I just got to send a little shout out to someone in the chat. Stu A. Lou said, bit of Raljex on it, right as rain. That is a throwback to Sunday League football if I ever seen one on the chat.
Oh, God.
Bit of Raljex, that smell.
Yeah, not in a groin strain though, that could...
We ruin a weekend.
Yeah, that brings me right back to Sunday League football. I feel like as I got older, it was the smell of Raljex and weed in the changing room that used to greet me as I type. That's when you know the level you're playing at, right?
Oh, totally.
People smoking weed in the changing rooms, I think.
One of the first teams I coached, Mark may even he'll definitely know the area, maybe even know the team, but like one of the first teams I managed to coach was an amateur team called Belgrove. And again, if you're around Glasgow, it won't take would take you long to work out where they're based, and you'd play at Crown Point on a Saturday. And really good level and all the rest of it. And I'd already been at another team or two, like just picking up cones and doing stuff. And then this was the first time that I was like, I was the coach kind of thing, and there was a manager, and it was just like, anyway. And the first game I went to at the training, the first game I went to on a Saturday, half the team was standing at the front door passing a joint. I'm pure, like 8 o'clock Saturday morning, 8 of them just like, I'm going to fucking pump this mob today.
I think.
That's a monster mentality right there, mate.
Yeah. I think there is that, like, because I remember like playing football, like I was playing a decent level until I was about 17, 18, got a bad injury and I had to stop. But I remember going and playing amateur football after that. And one of the first things I noticed was players being sick on the side of the pitch from being out the night before. it was almost like just a little crew before like 5 minutes into the game, you could just see they're catching up on them.
There's actually someone in the chat who used to play Sunday League with me, and he'll have stories exactly like that. We used to have a player who used to turn up every now and then. He was a friend of my brother's, Tony Major, and every time he played, like 5 minutes into the game, he'd be throwing up on the side of the pitch, making all kinds of noises while doing it as well. It was good times.
I mean, what were these boys drinking the night before to get? I mean, that is like some serious alcohol abuse.
Yeah, I mean, he did used to like a beer. To be fair to him, he did used to like a beer. But do you know what I've just realised as well? You've got you on, Mark, and we have to talk about the new product that you launched this week. I think this is a perfect opportunity for you to plug this amazing bit of news for the Sorare ecosystem. We need to get you. Quinny's gone. For anyone watching the live stream, he's got one of your products. There we go. Pavel Trader has rejected your offer. So you launched So Merch. Is it this week? It was this week, right? I feel like
just on Monday. On Monday we launched. So I mean, to be fair, we've been working on it for some time, and we've been doing some, just basically getting it set up in our Sorare Odyssey Discord and stuff like that. But we went live on Monday, and so far it's going pretty good. And really appreciate you guys giving us a wee shout out there. But yeah, we've got some more stuff that we're working on just now. Some more designs that will be coming out soon. But stay tuned.
I was talking about it on my stream, and I was saying to people, like, it's a genuinely good t-shirt, if you know what I mean. Like, it's not like a cheap, crappy Fruit of the Loom thing. You know, it's proper. And
heavyweight.
I was just, when you were talking there, I was just like, where's the labels and stuff? And I thought, I'll show you this. Certified. I don't know if you'll be able to see that. It says organic cotton. So the Sorare Odyssey know their t-shirts. They know their gear.
Yes. Absolutely. So we've got some cool stuff coming soon. One of the things that we're going to launch is the ability to get your winning teams. So any teams that you've had so we're going to get that sorted in the next few days. So that'll be coming soon.
What you need to do is add like trophies to your product range, so you can get your team printed on the bottom of like the sort of bottom of a trophy. stick it up on a wall behind the stream.
Absolutely.
Game week 315. Legends.
The actual website is somerch.co. Is that right?
Somerch.co. That's right. You'll find us there. We're on Twitter as Somerch HQ.
The thing that really struck me about it, which really impressed me as well, was that you can actually log into the site using your Sorare account like you do with any other kind of like third-party Sorare apps like Sorare Mega or any of the other ones people may have used. How difficult was it to integrate that, and did Sorare give you a lot of help in kind of like making sure that was set up correctly, and was that difficult?
Yeah. So actually one of the guys who's involved in the project is one of my good friends, Marco, who is actually on Dragon's Den.
Oh wow!
He's been basically in the tech sector for quite some time. So he's been doing lots of the coding side of it and lots of that API part of it. If I'm honest with you, Stish, a lot of that stuff, despite having a background in that myself, goes over my head.
Yeah.
Because I've forgotten most of it, to be totally honest with you. But basically, yeah, they've been really, Sorare have been really helpful with that stuff. Like there's just lots of documentation and stuff like that we've had to go through in order to build all of that. But I think probably one of the things that helps is just being like you guys obsessed with this game.
Yeah.
Like we're just, so I know the things that I would want,
Yeah.
like, and I know the things that I, like would just be cool. And I think that was kind of how it came around, was just like I would like to just have that. I'd like to be able to put that to, and I was like, maybe other people would like that. So it kind of came from that. But yeah, you're right. Sorare have been really good with us to get it set up. So yeah, it's been good.
Yeah, I love it. The Pavel Trader T-shirt as well. I think it's just one of those things. It's one of those little like nuances that only people who play Sorare will like. It would be great if you got spotted in the street wearing that T-shirt, because then you're not just, that's not just a casual player. That's someone who really knows like what's going on.
Oh, totally. It's one of them ones where you just go, yep. We nod to each other.
If I saw someone in the street wearing that, I'd have to talk to him. It's like that is like. That,
what's your Twitter handle, mate? Or what's your Sorare name?
I need to speak to you. Yeah, like you're beyond someone who just knows what Sorare is. You're in the game. Like, but yeah, the fact that I could just like link my wallet and mint a T-shirt or a mug of one of my favorite cards or something like that, I think is wicked. I thought it was a really good idea. I was saying to Quinny off air like a week or so ago about it, and I was saying like, I would have this idea of like, like the kind of like bootleg rap T-shirts of like LL Cool J or Snoop Dogg or something with all the kind of like smoke and stuff in the background. I've always had these ideas of like creating a Cecilia T-shirt with like his L15 on it and stuff like that, and like making him look like a rap legend, but actually he's just a Korean football legend or Sorare legend. But there's a lot of those Sorare cult heroes that kind of need their own line of like Sorare merch for me.
So we've got just now, I don't know if you've noticed, we've got, and these are like proper, maybe even one level below that, Carlos Lampe. So we have a Lampe, a Lampe cult T-shirt, and we also have an Enzo, which is he's probably a little, he's clearly now, we've spoken about.
He's going
already.
mainstream now, yeah.
Yeah, he's proper mainstream. But I mean, like a year, 2 years ago in Sorare, he was, generally unknown. Most people didn't watch River Plate, did they? Let's be honest.
Nah.
That was just for us, Sorare boys. But we've basically got Enzo as Che Guevara.
I saw that.
Well. Yeah. So we've got. There's a bunch of other ones we've got in mind. Cecilia was one of them.
I'll be keeping an eye out for that.
But there's a bunch of. But yeah, you're right. I think like stuff like that is stuff that I would want. I mean, like the Lampe one was one just, I guess, selfishly, because I just love him. Big King Lampe. He became like a cult, even like Quinny, because I said to Quinny, was it about 6 months ago or something? I was like,
when he was moving, you're like, this guy's moving. He's Bolivia #1. He's cheap as chips. And I was like, I was a bit too scared to get a rare, so I just got unlimited, and by golly, I regret that.
Yeah.
he had about, like, did he not have like 10 clean sheets in a row or something like that? It was like something mad. So you're right though, like those cult figures. I mean, one of the things that we are actually keen to understand is like understanding who other people perceive to be the cult figure. So that's something definitely we need to get more in depth with.
Yeah, when I think of Sorare cult heroes, the ones that come to mind are people like Vanaken, Sven Kums. I'm trying to think of other people that have just like rinsed. I think like Dino Hotic as well. He seems to be in everyone's lineup. If you look at Sorare data, and it's like the most used cards on an All-Star is like Dino Hotic, most captained, and I'm like, what? How? Why? But he goes out and does the business every week. So it's there's definitely quite a few cult heroes. Mine. Cecilia is the one that stands out for me, just because he's playing out in the K League, and everyone knows about him. Yeah, I feel like there's a few.
Who was see when you first started Sorare? Who was your first players that you bought?
So I went heavy into Asia. I was just trying to pick up like players as cheap as possible. So like the first sort of cards I bought was like Sho Inagaki and like
Oh,
Yeah,
now we're getting somewhere.
I bought some like, but he was great, and I had like one Alano who was
Oh,
for that season was fantastic
amazing.
at Antlers, but then just disappeared.
Yeah,
At
antlers.
like
Yeah,
I had a load of like really good J League cards, Yamamoto. So I had like the midfield pair at yeah, was it
antlers.
at Gamba? So it was Inagaki and
Oh yeah, sorry.
Yamamoto, who's now at Bel Shonan. And who else did I had? I had a few I think like Yaremchuk was one of my early, and then I started getting.
Yeah,
Then
that's a big
when
one.
when I at the time when I first started buying, I kind of looked at it from like a crypto perspective of like, this is putting my Ethereum to work. I wasn't like, I thought, I could just buy these players, use them, and hopefully they yield something, and that's better than just like letting my
Yeah.
Ethereum sit there. But then
Yeah,
as I realised more, then it was like, oh yeah, but then when you need to get out, you need to sell. Who's buying Sho Inagaki off me? No one. Like at the time, no one. I think there's a lot more users now than there was when I first started playing. But
yeah,
then I started to realise if I have the intention of potentially selling up to like cash out at any time, I'm gonna need cards people want. So then I started looking at picking up like better players. So I think like some of my first big purchases were like Florian Wirtz, Tony Cruz. I picked up I actually picked up a super rare of Diego Maradona and then flipped it the day he died. The next day, I was like, what the hell is happening here? But then I kind of like flipped it. I didn't make loads of money on it, but someone bought it off me, and it's probably worth loads more than I paid for it. But then I was looking on auctions. I think I picked up like Nuno Mendes. I was definitely more interested in picking up like the young talents that like
yeah.
I thought were under the radar, but I don't think they were under the radar to many so rare users. But I definitely overpaid a little bit for Nuno Mendes, but still managed to get rid of him at a profit down the line. But I've still got my Wirtz. I think my Florian Wirtz is the card I've held longest next to Tony Kroos. If I go back through my kind of what's the word, my gallery, and see where
Yeah.
I bought. But yeah, my initial purchases were just like cheap Asia cards,
I
definitely.
love that. Because see, the thing is that I mean, apart from the fact that I think Sho Inagaki's an absolute class player,
Yeah,
he was not that season, but the season before, he was in the team of the year. He was like, Sorare made those. Remember they made those
Sunrise
special Player
editions.
of the Year
Yeah,
cards.
yeah.
He was one of them. He was. I mean, do you know how high he went? See his limited card. I remember I sold a limited of him for about £120.
yeah,
Like
Tasty.
January of, I think it was January this year. So obviously, things changing him. I think you'd probably get a rare of him for that, maybe even now.
yeah.
But I think he's an absolute sensational player. But those players, particularly at the beginning of Sorare, I mean, like the Asia players, like I think the ones that stick out to me that I got at the beginning was Big Edgar Silva at
Yeah.
Daegu. He's back at Daegu now, by the way.
I
I
saw
think
that.
he's
Yeah,
just.
is he? Did
I
he
think he's.
recover from that injury and they've picked him back up for next season? Or?
Yeah. I think it's just like say your man Cecilia. I think they just got on really well, and I think it was never the plan for him to go. Obviously, that injury scuppered things. He's now back, so that I think that'll work out well there. But I had him and just Asia players like that. And
Kikuchi.
quite well, I couldn't afford that's proper big dog stuff at that point. I mean, I think his price has come down
Well, I'm
now.
thinking like cult heroes in Asia,
So the cult heroes definitely for me would be in Asia would be Sinjin Ho would be number one, and
Oh yeah.
in Kikuchi for absolute sure. I mean, even like some people getting on at Kikuchi
Osmar.
last season. Osmar as well. I think I missed the boat in Osmar. Like just, I know every time I go to get him, his price is down, and then it's like they'd done that announcement he was out for ages, and then he comes, then suddenly he's back quickly, and I was like, ugh, missed the boat again. But yeah, just an absolute passing. I mean, him and Ki Sung Young get like about 120 passes a game. I mean,
I reckon, right, if you follow Saul, as I do, because I massively overpaid for my Osmar card, but I think I think he's going to be pushed into midfield next season when Lee
Osmar?
Hambom comes back in from injury, because they've got a pretty decent few young centre backs there now, and I wouldn't be surprised if Osmar
Yeah.
gets pushed up to sort of like defensive mid, with possibly with Ki Sung Young again. I think they're losing a couple of players to the military, aren't they? They're losing two forwards, Sang Min and
Oh, that
Cho Young Wook.
Cho, yeah.
Yeah,
I think I've got Big Stan up front. Actually, I've got Key, Stan, and is it Paslovic?
Palisevich.
Pavlovic.
He's great. Yeah.
Palisevich, yeah. I think he is great. Some games some games he'll hit a proper 80, 90, and then the next game it will be a 30.
Yeah.
But I think the thing is what I like about him is he links up well with Stan, and I think next season they'll do well. As you say, Osmar is a more calming influence. If he plays in midfield, it might, certainly might help them out a bit more. But they look pretty formidable next season. So actually,
I can't believe. I think they've massively underperformed for the last couple of seasons since I've been playing Sorare. They were one of the teams next to probably Daegu and a bit of Ulsan since I won a few cards. They were the team that I found myself watching like almost religiously on like a Wednesday morning while I'm doing my emails. I'll have K-League on. You can get all the games on the website for free. So why wouldn't I watch them, right? And
yeah,
FC Seoul are definitely underperformed for me. Like what they're capable of. So it'd be really interesting to see how they set up. I've actually got their backup goalkeeper who got injured, who did actually start 2 games last season and done really well, but then put himself into a long-term injury situation. So I'm kind of half expecting their goalkeeper to change next season. I don't think Yang Hanbin will be number 1, which is my.
Is that Bayek, the young goalkeeper?
Yes, yeah.
That you've yeah. I actually had him as well, and I think I got a trade accepted with Pavlov. Crazily, I don't know how that happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with you. I think I don't think Hanbin will be there. I think there was a lot of talk that he's going to leave, so I would expect that he won't be the number 1 at Seoul next season. This transfer situation in K-League and Asia is just mental, though.
Yeah.
Like there is, I mean, keeping up to date with some of the stuff there, because obviously Big Min Q at Jeju was meant to go to Ulsan and it was allegedly a done deal, and he's still not confirmed. Your man at Ulsan from Yokohama, midfielder, he still not he's Yanamano. He was apparently meant to be going to Yeonbuk. There's lots of that stuff where it just drags on and on and on, but I think you're right. I think there's going to still be a change at Seoul for sure and goals.
Talking about players that I love to hear you mention on the podcast, Mark, but Facundo Colidio apparently has signed a contract extension for Tigra. He's going to be there for the next 6 months, which I'm really happy about because I hold a super rare. You're a holder of Colidio as well, right?
Well, it's Sean that has him. Sean's mad about him. I remember. Yeah. Sean actually. Sean, was he not at Inter Milan? I think it was at Inter Milan that signed him and then loaned him out.
That's right.
Twice, I think.
He's been at St. Troiden a couple of times, and then
that's right.
Tigra,
yeah, and he was, because I think he was meant to go to, I think it was Rapid Vienna, or was it Austria Vienna? He was meant to go to Austria anyway, and it fell through at the last minute, and then suddenly back to Tigra. But he was proper wonder kid material, So I think like it's no big shock. I think the thing is that sometimes people are so attracted to what's going on in Sorare, like in terms of if a guy goes there, he scores a down, so he must be like that, and not actually just focusing on, wait a minute here, that guy's actually signed for £16 million for Inter at one point. He can't be that bad. Maybe there was something there. But definitely good news, because he seemed to find his feet at Tigra. Particularly the latter part of last season, because I know at the beginning he was in and out of the team. Now
Yeah,
he's
I
a
agree with
solid
that. I
starter,
think
and he's a solid.
his scores definitely became a bit more consistent as you got closer to like the business end of the season, and they were pretty good
Yeah,
as well towards the end of the season. I find it's quite hard to keep up with that part of the world in terms of football, probably because of the time of night that the games are on. But Quinny,
Yeah.
you find yourself watching quite a bit of MLS, don't you? So like, I don't know if you find yourself up late at night. Do you get too involved as much in the South American leagues and doing some scouting?
Definitely nowhere near as much as I wanted to. And like some of the stuff that's been kind of bubbling away in the background, again, anyone who's watching or listening to this will probably be up to speed with it anyway. But I'm trying to, see for all the appetite I've got for Sorare in terms of like watching Universitario and having a wee. I've been saying all year I want to get into Brazilian and Argentinian football more. And it is hard because of the time difference, but also then it's that bridge of being up to speed with the comings and goings. So part of the whole thing with like Sorare TV, for example, is like I'm not really equipped to talk about that stuff too well, but I know there's people out there that would. And I say part of that channel, the idea of it is like people that know the stuff can come on and talk about it. And I think if there, I don't mind staying up late to watch River, to watch Palmeiras, to watch anyone if I've got a card, but I'm not going to get a card until I know something a wee bit better. And yeah, you can go digging, you can do all that stuff as well. But like I said earlier, like my appetite for this stuff is huge. So like just carving out time to go and discover something new, or again, sometimes when you try and look for players in new leagues or new clubs, you come out empty-handed. There's not always something there, kind of thing. So I'm very, I would be very eager to, but again, like you were kind of touching on there, Stish, some of the little barriers, they're still little barriers for me, unfortunately. But I think like for us, for managers like us that have been around the game and kind of know it, like you just need to look at some of the transfers we've had over the last 6 months to a year. But if you can get really in and knowing the Brazilians and the Argentinians that are coming through, and Argentina's been a bit easier. Like there was a lot of hype around. What was the guy that went to Belgium for Argentinos? What was the midfielder? Fausto Vera. So like Fausto Vera,
Galaza.
like Galarraza, and then like Enzo, Julian Alvarez. Some of these ones are quite easy to spot. But Brazil has guys leaving that league every year, going everywhere, and you don't know who
yeah.
they are and all the rest of it. I know we've not got all the teams there, but I think for astute managers, that those are two of the best divisions to go hunting in. So I'm right up for it to answer the question.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you know one of the things I would say about that, right, is that one of the, I mean, see if you look at the team, I mean, the one, the Closera and Brazil was Palmeiras, wasn't it? See, because I think I see that Romano is constantly talking about that guy. Is it Endrick or
Endrick.
Eric?
Oh, Endrick, yeah.
Endrick. Obviously, those teams and those cards not being on so rare, like it's a bit harder. I think with there's quite a lot of Argentinian teams on there, which is quite good. Mexican, it's quite a bunch. Peru, I think, I'm obsessed with that Universitario. um, and but yeah, I think with the Brazilian league, what they've got, how many teams are they? Is it only there's only a handful,
It's a smaller league, isn't
and
it?
now
Yeah.
you've got, yeah. Well, they've got a ton of teams, but they've just not. They're not on so rare.
Oh, right, yeah.
Sadly, I mean, because Flamengo aren't on there.
No.
Who they are big boys. So out of the big boys, you've only really got Corinthians and Atletico Mineiro that are there. But even Atletico Mineiro, they've
They're a new
basically
thing.
bought. Yeah, but they've been buying in a bunch of new players that are not, covered and things like that. So, um, I would love to see more Brazilian teams covered on Soria, particularly like say the Palmeiras and
Sao Paulo's.
Flamengo. Yeah, Sao Paulo absolutely would be another good one. Santos would be brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Another thing worth on that note, actually, there's a lot of talk of Cristiano Ronaldo moving to. Is it the UAE? Is it UAE? Is it out in Al Nassr? Is that UAE?
Nasser, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, do we think that a big move like that and the potential eyes? Do you think that So Rare are kind of, if there's some kind of advantage for them on is there now a bit more of a push for them to onboard a league like that where a player of Ronaldo's stature is now going to put more eyes on that league potentially from around the world? Do you reckon that we see a few more licenses open up a move like that might actually facilitate the like a faster like right, let's get this unlocked because it's Ronaldo, and there's potential, like the potential like money that's going to kind of move in, and the viewership of that league will go up massively if a player like him moves to it. I wonder if that comes into play when they're looking at their licenses.
Yeah. I think, I mean, obviously Ronaldo's said that in his autobiography that all he's ever dreamt of as a kid is to play for Al Nassr. um, but I think that, I mean, there's got to be a shout. I mean, we often talk about it in our Discord. We call it, if a player's gone, he's been Saudi'd. So he's no chance. He's got the red X. But I think ultimately it makes commercial sense now. I mean, if there's one thing the Saudi boys don't mess about with commercial deals, do they? Like, they get that stuff wrapped up pretty quickly. So there's definitely enough there now, surely, to justify it. I mean, I don't know how many teams that they've got in their top leagues, but surely it can't be that many. It wouldn't be that difficult a license. They're already in the Asian Champions League, so I think it would make sense, yeah, and particularly if he's going to be there, and there's already a bunch of players, as we say, that are already covered on Sorare who are there already as well. So get a license. It might actually open the door to getting some users out there as well.
Yeah.
The UAE division's got 14 teams in it, and
14.
the Saudi team, the Saudi league has 16. Qatar's probably in amongst that level as well.
Yeah.
So we've got like Croatian-sized divisions,
I always think if we got Opta coverage, we may as well just like cover the leagues. Whether or not you actually mint cards and rewards from them leagues is a completely different thing. But if it doesn't cost them anything to cover the players, that's the less red X's we have on the platform, the better, in my opinion.
Yeah,
agreed. Yeah, that, I mean, instantly that would help me because I've got a few of them.
Oh, yeah.
I've got that. Is Madran, Mendalvaro Madran? He was at Chicago. I think is it Saudi he's in, or is it?
I think you're right.
Yeah.
He's in one of them for sure.
I've definitely got a few that kind of only become available every now and then when the Asian Champions League kicks on. It's like,
I think he's in Iran.
Yeah.
He's in Iran.
Al Tawan, I think that's Iran.
I've definitely had a few that have moved to like the Greek leagues and stuff like that, where it's like, those teams are in Europe. They're in the Champions League. They've got a few international players playing in like Athens, and a few less red X's in the gallery would be nice to have. It's just like when you get that little bit of differential as well. Those players that not many people have, where they might only have 4 cards, and unfortunately one of those is in your gallery. It's lovely when one of those red X's lifts. So nice to see them in your selections.
Yeah, you get a wee bit of rub of the green somewhere. Actually, do you know I had one last night, which was Universitario have signed. He's 35, right? So I'm not getting too excited. Emmanuel Herrera, who was playing at Celaya in the Liga MX expansion. I mean, that sounds like a made-up league, to be honest with you. But he's it's basically like the second division of Mexico. But he was at Argentinos Juniors, so he has a card. I've got a super rare, but last night, he signed for Universitario.
Ooh.
So hopefully, I don't know if he's going to get I think he'll probably just be a super sub, a bit like myself, and come off that bench and get some goals. But yeah, I think you get a wee bit those bits of news, particularly when they go to your team.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, wait a minute here.
I love that. I love that Universitario has become like your team as well. It's you got Sorare to thank for that, or was that pre-Sorare?
Oh, totally. Do you know the thing? And it's not even like, it is mad. I watched every single Universitario game last season, and like you talk about times, like, because I'm in Istanbul just now, and the time is like 3 hours ahead of you, right? So if you imagine, even some of the Universitario games I've watched here have been crazy times, like 5 a.m. But generally speaking, they're not conventional hours that I've been watching games there. But yeah, absolutely. I'm not even sure I had heard of Universitario prior to
I hadn't.
Sorare, if I'm honest. But now, I love their kit. I
Yeah.
love their badge. I love their social media. Their fans remind me of Celtic fans, the way they're entitled and behave and behave like the world owes them everything. Always moaning, but but um but yeah, they are. I don't know. I've definitely become pretty obsessed with them. Yeah, and I think the good thing about that is, like you touched on, is it gives you a focus for like a league or a team, because I know most things about them, but I don't really know much about other teams in their league.
Yeah.
So on one hand, I know a lot about them, but I don't really know much about the
The teams they're coming up against.
Alianzas yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I'll need to probably spend more time on that. But whereas, for example, I know a lot about the J League generally, but yeah, there's definitely strategies that can work for you. But to answer your question, you're absolutely spot on. I didn't know much about them. It was so rare,
Yeah.
the attention.
Do you have a team, Quinny, that you kind of adopted since you got on Sorare?
Yeah, a few Spanish teams, man. Like, I never really watched La Liga. Don't get me wrong, we've always watched La Liga when Ronaldo and Messi were there all the time and whatever, but it was El Clasicos mainly, you know. But yeah, since being on Sorare, like, I've got a mad obsession with Celta Vigo and Getafe, for better or for worse, you know. And it's funny because I didn't even Celta Vigo. I kind of like them, and I liked some of their players, and I'm like, yeah, Celta Vigo, let's do this. But the Getafe thing is just kind of happened by accident, and it's like I've made a few jokes about it on content for the last month or two, but it's like I do shake myself sometimes. I'm like, I've seen Getafe play every game this season. I've seen every game they've played.
Yeah, this is
It's
it.
like, why? Why am I doing this?
I definitely say that FC Seoul are well and truly in that category for me. I think I watched more FC Seoul than I did Man United last season because their time of their games was, like Wednesday, Saturday mornings. I'm the easiest time of the week for me to be able to watch a game is like 11 o'clock in the morning on a day when the kids are at school and I'm just like tapping away at emails. It's like a bit like watching a World Cup. It's been a dream. It's like getting up, do the school run, get indoors, make a cup of tea, and before you know it, you're looking at the lineups and you got your laptop on, you've got your emails open, and you're just watching Argentina make an absolute fool of themselves in front of the Saudis. But it's been brilliant in that sense. But I think we're coming towards the end of the podcast now, so I think looking forward to the rest of the World Cup. Mark and Quinny, what are your current picks? Who do you think wins the World Cup now, given what you've seen up to this point?
I
I
backed
think
Brazil since the start, so I'm going to stick with Brazil. But I don't have any Brazilians in my draft.
Yeah.
So they probably will win it.
Yeah.
I still think Argentina, just because of the force of Messi, and I think defensively they've got better, but I think as a unit they're generally playing better. France have been immense in the first two games.
Yeah.
The third game, the third game is just a mess, but first two games I thought they were immense.
Yeah, I'm just having a little look at the brackets now, and I think it's hard to get past Argentina again now because the bracket they fall into. In the next game they're going to play, if they get past Australia, the winner of Netherlands or USA, and I think they beat both of those. So then that puts them into the semi-final where they'll play either Japan, Croatia, or is it? And then I think
Brazil,
or possibly Brazil. So it really is going to come down to who wins that semi-final, because I'd expect Brazil and Argentina to get there if that's the way the bracket goes. And on the other side, you've got France, England, probably in the next round, I would expect. I think that would be an interesting game because I think England play better against teams that attack them, and I think France will fancy themselves against us. And if they do attack England, I think we'll be better against a team like that versus like how we played against USA. And I think that Senegal are really going to frustrate us on Sunday as well. So I think that's going to be a tough game on Sunday. I don't think it's going to be end to end. I don't think it'll be exciting. I think it'll be cagey. unless there's an early goal from like a set piece or something like that. I think we could be waiting till like the 70th, 80th minute for like a breakthrough. But I think England's quality on the bench will win eventually. You know, I think if we do go into extra time, I'll be surprised if we see penalties. I think England's quality from the bench is possibly the best in the tournament at the moment.
England should beat Senegal.
They should.
I mean, I think they'd be too strong for Senegal.
I hope so. I think, you know, we looked good in the first game. We looked good in the second half against Wales when the game stretched. But I do think, you know, like it is hard to watch England play against a team that sets up so compact. So I'm just hoping that Senegal come at us a little bit. But I think if France play us, I think they'll come straight at us. And I think I think we'd expect to see someone like Kyle Walker start that game to try and deal with Mbappe. And I think if you can nullify Mbappe, you know, there's a lot less balls in the box, a lot less runs into the box, and yeah, I fancy, you know, we could give them a game. You never know, but yeah, I think Argentina still probably edge it for me a little bit. Yeah, I suppose like the dark horse there is Portugal, who I think have been dark horses from the start for me, but I've not been that impressed with Spain. I think Spain were poor yesterday against Japan. I don't fancy them to.
I think Spain are the surprise package as far as the big teams that people were talking and not talking about. You know, like I think Spain have got a real chance. Like actually, just re-looking at the draft there, like I'm looking at Spain players and I'm like, man, I fancy them to beat Morocco. And I don't know.
It's going to be a good game. That fancy that to be a good game for a neutral.
A little bit like Derby as well. I think Spain and Morocco, they've got there is some crossover there. I think like, you know, if you're, you know, just how close they are and stuff like that, and people whatever. So I think it's a wee bit of a derby.
That'll be a good game.
Yeah, I think the thing is that when you look at, I mean, I don't know how much you read into that Japan game last night, but when Spain had Germany got the goals, which obviously didn't come, would Spain have just went that extra mile to get the goal? I don't know. That would probably be my only concern, is that, you know, in that moment in that game when they had to get the goal, they just didn't have it enough. I mean, obviously that first game they came out of the blocks, they smashed Costa Rica heavily. Second game didn't finish Germany off really. I don't know. I started off being crazily for Spain, but the Japan game just totally. I don't know. I'm iffy about them now. I think Brazil would probably be the one team who, if the on their day, if they just, you know, if they just go hell for leather and attack. I mean, because realistically, they've just got a specific style. With you'd imagine Vinicius Junior will be the guy who's going to be the Neymar. If Neymar isn't going to be there, Richarlison has just been playing phenomenal. They could just, you know, get that wee bit of luck that will take them to the win. But yeah, I'm like you, Stish. I'm sticking by Argentina. I just think that it's destined this year for them.
Yeah, who knows? Well, I think we've probably just about covered everything we need to. This is coming up to that hour and 10, which is a lovely sweet spot for a podcast. And yeah, just wanted to thank Mark for coming through. Like the super sub, he's come in and got a nice little plug in there as well. But if you've never listened to So Rare Odyssey, definitely give that a thumbs up. I'm sure Quinny will join me with a big thumbs up for So Rare Odyssey. Do check them out on their podcast.
Now, I'll say this as well, Mark, because I've seen this to Stish before we came on when we were talking about the t-shirts and stuff. The So Rare Odyssey is probably, for me, one of these podcasts that even if you found it today, I would probably recommend people start at episode 1 and run their way through, because part of the thing that I enjoy about it isn't, like, don't get me wrong, I love all the stuff that you guys watch and you share the insight with, but I enjoy listening to it for the in-jokes and for the patter between you and Sean. And I think if you opened up So Rare Odyssey on the latest mint that we've got, you'd probably get most of it, but I think you would enjoy it probably 3 or 4 times more if you maybe caught some of the earlier ones as well. So
that's a good point.
Like,
yeah,
the biggest compliment
Appreciate
I
that.
can pay you is your old content.
Appreciate that, guys. Appreciate that.
And also be sure to check out somerch.co. So I can see my microphone going a bit mad there. I think my cables are playing up, but yeah, somerch.co. Yeah, thanks guys. It's been an absolute pleasure. Big up everyone who's joined us in the in the live chat. We'll probably do this more often. It's actually like worked out technically all right until we listened to the recording and found out that we've been on mute the whole time. But it's been great chatting to you both, and everyone in the chat. Thanks for joining us, and be sure to like, subscribe, and share the End Product Podcast. And we will be back again next week with another episode. Big up, everyone.
Take care.
Cheers, all.
Cheers, guys.